Welcome to another episode of The Gray Area. Today, I'm joined by one-third of we'll put some respect on it today, the K&C Masterpiece. This is Cory Mageors, along with, of course, with Kevin Hagelin and Mike Bass. You can hear them every day from 10 to 2 p.m. on 105.3 The Fan. Cory, what's up, man?
Hey, don't forget Reggie. That dude is an integral part to what we do.
Let me not forget, because he is, of course, part of one podcast that I do along with Sterling Daniels, the Chopping It Up Sports and Culture podcast. So I got to put some respect on Reggie. Reggie's going to see this video, is going to get really upset with me. That's okay. We're here to talk some NBA playoffs. Cory, look, if you don't understand how much Cory Mageors loves himself some NBA basketball, specifically, of course, with the Dallas Mavericks, then you haven't been paying attention. And so far, the Mavericks find themselves in this series now after losing game one, come back in game number two with a combined 53 points from Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis. Cory, we got ourselves a series now. How did we get here?
Well, I think it starts with the fact that you have a very talented 21-year-old who everybody on the team seems to understand he's the guy. You know, like I think everybody understands he is the dude, and he's the one that's leading the way. And then you have Kristaps, who I think is like found his way with this team a lot. And then you have role players who completely understand their role. Then on top of that, I think you have a coach that has a lot of understanding of the psychology of the game and wants his team to understand that they belong where they are right now. Even if everybody else out there is saying, hey, look, you're too young, you still don't have enough experience, all these things, Rick has been adamant since the beginning of the season, and since I think they kind of caught on early that they're not just a team that's trying to, get to the playoffs. They're trying to do something. They're a young team trying to do something special. So I think that's why they are where they are. I don't know if the Clippers are just lethargic, or if they're just if they just kind of got caught off guard by the fact that Luka came out competitive and everybody else came out ready to play. I said I think that Kristaps, his ejection was kind of a blessing in disguise, because it alerted everybody else on the team that they have to pick up the slack at any point in any game. And it also looked like it gave them like a bit of a robotic demeanor when it comes to like that. Go back in 11, whenever Dirk, they'd asked Cuban to stop talking so much, and you could see when they never got fazed by things. If they were down 15 in the fourth quarter, they always felt like they had a chance, and they did. They would go on those runs. So it's just this robotic idea of just stay focused and don't get too emotionally charged up by anything. So I think that was a good lesson for them to learn in game one.
Yeah, of course, Kristaps Porzingis getting ejected in the third quarter of game one, where the Mavs were up 5 at that point, and the momentum of that basketball game completely shifted. A lot of folks could argue that the Mavs should be up 2-0 given the way that they were playing in game one. And then, of course, backing that up in game two behind. I've always said this about Luka Doncic. I call him a precocious 21-year-old, because it feels like he doesn't know any better. A guy who has played in big games overseas and played in big moments, but coming into these playoffs, it's a different intensity in the NBA. And it just feels like, you know what? I'm here, I'm competitive, and I'm going to do everything I can to lead this team. And it just feels like, you know what? If we win, great. If not, you're going to feel me for these 4, 5, 6 games, however we play here, to give folks an indication of what the future is going to look like. What have you thought about his maturation process, not just from his rookie year, but now obviously taking the leaps that he did in his second year, and how he's continued to lead this basketball team?
I think one of the really cool things, you ever play poker against somebody that knows how to play poker?
Yeah.
So when you know how to play poker, and both of you know, every once in a while you have to have like a guerrilla warfare tactic where you play a hand that nobody expects you to play. And Luka knows what everybody's supposed to do. When you're defending him, he knows what you've been taught. And so because he's been taught all the things, he's seen those things. And that's the thing I see with him, is that he understands you saw it. Was it Terrence Mann had his hand on his back, and it was 4 seconds left before halftime, And as soon as Luka gets the ball, the first thing he does is he swipes this way because he draws the foul, because he knows where you are. He feels you. I think that's just the thing that I'm seeing, his patience. And we saw that early in his career, but his patience when he gets in the lane, when he gets into trouble, and the fact that he sees what you're supposed to do and then takes advantage of it. That's something that any young player that you're watching grow like that is an absolute blast to see. It's like when you're watching Ja Morant, his explosiveness and the things that he's able to do. When you're watching Zion, his just athletic presence on the court. Well, what do they add to it as they grow? Well, this kid's been doing championship ball since he was 16, so he's just adding on top of those things. So that's what's a blast right now to see. And then it's kind of like watching. It's weird watching Jason Kidd develop his 3-pointer late in his career, and that was something that you were like, hold on. Plus, he has this IQ that goes along with it. It's just it creates championships. So I think we're kind of Mavs fans are kind of ready for it to be. Have we already arrived? Like that Rangers team in 2010 that got there too early, and we were like, hold on, we're in the World Series now. So
it's like, look, we're just happy to be here, but you know what? We came here to win too. But at the same time, it's interesting you mentioned that, because I think one of the things that this team has had to go through, not obviously just with the adversity that they've dealt with in terms of some of the injuries with Dwight Powell and Jalen Brunson, but just the overall growth of a young basketball team, learning how to win. Their chronicle, the struggles in clutch time situations have been well chronicled throughout this season. But I think what you saw in game 2 was, look, we're going to keep the pedal to the metal, even if we find ourselves with a team in the Clippers that could potentially turn it on when they want to. We have found a level of maturity that says, hey, we've been through this before. This is how we're going to have to maintain this. And they were able to do so without Luka Doncic. Is that the next step and progression for this team, to learn how to consistently handle those moments, to give them a better indication that this is a future team that can handle these kinds of moments like that?
Yeah, and I don't know if he's still with them, but Dr. Cockstein was the sports psychologist they had. And I talked to Derek Holland, who he was working with them during that 2011 season with the Rangers and the Mavericks. And I remember him saying very specifically, one of the things he preached and wanted you to understand was where you are in that moment, why you belong in that moment, and what you are capable of, what you can control and what you can't. And that's what I feel like. I think they're still working with him a little bit. I'm not sure about that, but that's what Rick is constantly trying to get across to these guys. And, losing Jalen Brunson, who understands the game so well and gets it, and then replacing him with Trey Burke, and seeing that they just told Trey Burke, look, just be you. Just be that guy and go out there, be your offensive self, and commit on defense. And I think you saw in the fourth quarter, about 5 minutes left, the Clippers tried to put the clamps on him. And Luka, I really actually think it was Burke at the time, he was like, they all kind of just slowed everything up, took a breath, and said, we're not just going to try and push just to push, not just to try and catch them off guard. We're gonna make our plays. We're gonna take advantage of it. Now, 2 minutes and 30 seconds left, and they're getting easy buckets on the other end, and the Mavericks can't get what they want. I was like, oh, just a little bit. But yeah, I think you're starting to see that they didn't collapse and fall apart. They were like, hey, look, we know what we can do, so let's just take advantage of what we're capable of, because we had the lead. So I really liked watching that maturity, that part of maturity, because without Dwight Powell, there are a lot of different obstacles. Well, they found a mismatch with Boban that I don't know if they would have explored.
You rang?
Yeah, I don't know if they would have explored that mismatch had they had Dwight Powell, because they would have felt, oh, well, Harrell and Powell can be a matchup we can live with. But they found it. Kleba had 4 points, and maybe was not as useful as you'd want him to be, but then he had 10 rebounds and a couple of block shots. So just every one of these guys has grown into this role. I'll be honest, I was kind of concerned about Dodo on the defensive end against Kawhi, because I was at the Clippers game where Dwight Powell hurt his Achilles.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kept watching Finney Smith get back down, pushed around, and then Kawhi could do pretty much whatever he wanted against him. Well, Kawhi hasn't gotten to the block on him. For some reason, Kawhi stayed out on the perimeter, and he's struggling a little bit there. So I really like what I'm seeing with their defensive effort. It's not great, but it's enough right now, and it looks like a little unique commitment that I like watching as these guys are growing. Because I mean, how many of these guys, Kevin, how many of them are like superstars on any other team or big guys on any other team, but they just seem to work with this group? So I
Mm-hmm.
really like what that maturity and growth has been there.
Yeah, because really it's Luka, KP. I mean, those are your two focal points. And then the rest of the guys kind of fit what they do. And it's been interesting to watch how Carlisle has adjusted given what Dwight Powell was at the center position. And then when he gets hurt, all of a sudden we get to unlock this Porzingis thing, shooting the ball from 30 feet away, stretching the floor. And all of a sudden now, exactly. And you create the most offensive, efficient team in NBA history because now Kristaps Porzingis says, "Hey, I'll just step back and start shooting threes from 30 feet away and stretch this whole thing out." So, as we watch not only what the Mavericks have done as they play their next couple of games, in this series, throughout the NBA playoffs, we have seen tremendous performances from guys like Donovan Mitchell dropping 57. Dame pulling up from half court on the Lakers the other night. It just seems like we're getting a bunch of great performances. How impressed have you been with the NBA to not only what they produced on the floor, but this whole bubble thing and the way that it's gone off pretty much, except for, a trip to Magic City by Lou Williams, pretty much gone off without a hitch, with respect to this bubble thing.
I think the most important part in all that is the players said that they wanted to use the opportunity to play because they love the sport, but they also wanted to use it for other purposes. And the NBA said, how can we facilitate that? And they said, it's going to cost money to do this. They all teamed up to make it happen. And that's the part that I like, and it has inspired me the most. Now they're making money, like they're making advertising money, that no doubt about that.
Sure.
Not quite, the revenue that they thought they would get, but they're making something. And to see them pull it off and see the tests are coming back negative on a daily basis is awesome. I'm really impressed with what they put together. And now the competitiveness. I loved what Jaylen Brown said about, all the players being around each other all the time. And it's a joke and it's funny, but I don't want to see Donovan Mitchell after I just got done playing against him. And they've turned that into a hilarious bit. But, you go up against a guy and then you see somebody at the pool and you're like, man, I don't want to even look at that dude right now. I just had a bitter game against him. I imagine the Dame is just like in his room doing knuckle push-ups and punching the wall and has this.
Alongside Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, he's got a picture of all the Clippers players just on the wall, and he's just like, when I see y'all. And maybe he doesn't even want the Mavericks to win against them because he wants his shot at them. But
yeah,
I just see revenge toward Dame, and it's awesome to watch. And then on top of that, the Rockets are, having an interesting series here against Oklahoma City, which I think, the Rockets have this confidence and have a chip on their shoulder. So the West is a blast. The East is fascinating. So this is the best basketball. Like, I really think this is great basketball to be enjoying right now if you're an NBA fan.
Last question before we let you go. What do you want to see more from the Mavericks that gives you an indication that, next year, 2 years down the road, this should be a team that should be not only in the Western Conference Finals, but potentially in the NBA Finals within the next 2 to 3 seasons?
I guess that, add another piece. I don't know exactly what it is, though. Like, I have my mind set on Klay Thompson as the piece that you need, just because he's a dagger 3 guy. But that kind of changes, because Bradley Beal, like that name keeps getting thrown our direction. I don't know what's going to fit, and I don't know what Rick is going to find that fits, man, because then you see performances like you get from Curry that you're like, man, that's the perfect role player. And if the team does that, then we don't need anything.
Yeah.
Well, then you think about that championship run. They were a bunch of really talented players, great pedigree, but they weren't superstars in their own right, aside from Dirk and Kidd. Jet was his own personality, but he was beloved here. Tyson, was a nomad for a while. So I think that this new brand that the Mavericks are rolling out with this type of offense and just come catch us is interesting, but I don't know how long it can last, especially when you see what happened with Golden State with a couple injuries. Bam, it has to be a very specific group that can make that work. So, I do want to see them add a couple young pieces. They can't do that through the draft. So they're going to have to do that through free agency or trade. But man, if you can just see Kristaps continue, stay healthy, whatever way they got to put a bionic knee in there, dude. I don't care. Just get it replaced if you have to.
Yeah.
But you can see him continue doing that, and Luka just continuing to maintain. I'm the guy. Mike said it earlier today. Magic and those guys were looking at Michael, and they were like, "This guy's on his way, and we're in a lot of trouble." And I think the NBA might be, if the Mavericks can make something happen here in the next few games, the NBA might be looking at them going, crap, we're in a lot of trouble because this guy's on the hunt.
It should be a lot of fun to watch, and Luka Doncic has made this season super special for Mavs fans, and of course he's continued it so far. Most points in his first 2 playoff games ever, passing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. That should kind of tell you somehow good this kid is.
Yeah.
Cory Mageors.
It's time to be a Mavs fan.
That's right. Cory Mageors is 1/3 of the K&C Masterpiece. Cory, I appreciate the time, my man.
Thank you, man.
You got it.